All right, so Madam Mayor, Willie Wilson, as you know, announced for mayor today, put $5 million in his campaign fund, and said, had a series of criticisms of you on the violence and on your style of governing. It's obviously going to be a full tilt campaign. Is the criticism he levels at you fair?
Well, I did not see Dr. Wilson's press conference, but I'll just say this. Look, it's that season. People are going to jump in. People are going to try to distinguish themselves. But what I'm going to do every single day is focus on doing the job that the people elected me to do. And part of that is making sure that we're focused on public safety, that we're focused on the pandemic, and that we're focused on truly equitable and inclusive economic development, in particular, as we have talked about today, making sure that we support our young people. I'm very comfortable with our record of accomplishment. There is that narrative that some like to perpetuate. But what I would say is look at the record of incredible success through a global pandemic, an economic meltdown, and all of the other challenges that we faced over the last 2 years. There'll be plenty of time for me to talk about that, but right now, I'm focused on making sure I do the job every single day that the people of this city elected me to do, and that is to lead.
Specifically, he said he would abolish the COVID vaccination mandate.
Well, I think there will be a lot of people who ask a lot of questions about that issue. I'm very comfortable with what we have done to try to keep people safe. And you've got to lead by example. Every single court, every single arbitrator who has looked at this has said without qualification that it was our right as the employer to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to keep the workplace safe. And we've heard from our employees who are grateful because they don't want to come back to a workplace where they're not safe, where they don't know whether or not their neighbor has been fully vaccinated. No decisions that we've made over these last 2 years have been easy, but they have been guided by the data and the science, all in the interest of making sure that we save people's lives. And I hope is the biggest pandemic and public health challenge of our lifetime. So, as I said, there'll be plenty of time to talk about the politics. Right now, I'm focused on the people.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Craig Wall, ABC 7.
Mayor, one of the things he said, particularly this morning, is that he voted for you in the runoff in 2019, but he said it was a mistake, quote, a hell of a mistake. Do you expect that this campaign is going to get ugly, and when will you formally announce your reelection plan?
Well, as I said, there'll be plenty of time for the politics, but right now all I'm focused on is doing my job of leading the city out of a pandemic and into economic prosperity.
And just did need to ask you about the continued problem with crime on the CTA. What is the city going to do to deal with this? Dr. Wilson saying he'd bring back, police on the CTA. But what is the city doing?
Well, as you well know, Craig, we put more resources from CPD uniform officers and more presence, and that's starting to see dividends. We're making the arrest, and the arrest hopefully themselves will be a deterrent. In addition to that, the Chicago Transit Authority Board approved doubling of the non-law enforcement resources that are on the CTA, and we would ask, and I think this is happening, that riders, when they see something, to say something and report any kind of criminal activity. We literally can have zero tolerance for any kind of criminal activity on the CTA, and we'll be very aggressive in enforcing that as we have been.
Damon Bradley, WGN.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
Willie Wilson won 13 wards during the general election, 11% of the vote that he got.
You're talking about the first election?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes,
okay.
The first election. This morning he appeared with various members of the clergy, pastors from across the city. Why do you think black people support him so strongly?
Well, I don't know that that assumption is correct. And as I said, there'll be plenty of time for us to talk about the politics of this. But what I'll say is this. There has not ever been a mayor in the city's history who's invested as much as my administration has in majority black wards, starting with our signature economic development plan, which is Invest Southwest. You know this as well as people across black Chicago. These neighborhoods have been starved for resources for decades. And when you starve people of opportunity, you starve them of hope. And that's why from day one, while I ran, when I came in the door, what I've been about is making sure that we correct decades of disinvestment in black and brown neighborhoods across the city. Now, there are some people who think that's a bad thing. They want their city back. They being the people who profited from resources being clustered among a clouded few, but not reaching out to neighborhoods like this one. I make no apologies, and in fact, I say unequivocally, we cannot be a great global city if we starve our neighborhoods. The downtown is important. It is the heart that beats the blood into the rest of the city, but we can't move forward on any of the issues of the day, violence being chief among them. And Alderman Brookins said it right. If you don't create legitimate opportunities for employment and engagement in our neighborhoods, you are going to continue to see this constant, perpetual cycle of violence, as we have seen for decades. So we're on the right path. We are on the right path. And this is about the future of our city. This is about who we want to be coming out of this pandemic and whether or not we're going to bring everybody along, or whether or not we're going to return to the days when a few people got all the resources on the table and there was no room for anybody else. That's not the city that I want. And I don't think that's the city that the vast majority of residents want. They want a city that's fair. They want a city that includes them. They want to see that the policies that are coming out of the 5th floor and across our city are ones that reflect the reality of their lives. And that's what we have been about now for almost 3 years, and that's what we will continue to do. We will listen, we will collaborate, and we will be in partnership with all of our residents, and not just the small, clouded few who feel like they should be the ones that dictate how city dollars are spent.
Wilson says before today's announcement, when it became clear what he was announcing, someone on your team reached out to him. Is that true? And obviously, given that Wilson is a man of vast financial wealth and seems to connect with people well, is there a different way that he could be helpful to the city of Chicago right now, given now that you're the mayor? How can he help you?
Well, look, I would say that there's lots of ways that lots of people, particularly people of means, could be helpful. But they've got to do it through a lens of being a public servant and not to serve themselves. So people ask me all the time, what can I do to help? Let's bring some money in to increase the number of summer job opportunities that we give to our young people. Let's bring some money in to make sure that parks and libraries and other places of important connection across our city have the resources that they need to scale up the opportunities that they are providing for residents on a regular basis. If there are plenty of really civic-minded people across our city who are rolling up their sleeves and giving of their time, their talent, their resources to do just that. So you judge people by what they do when people aren't looking, not by what they do when they see the spotlight on them.
Chris Ty, Channel 2, last questions of the day.
Speaking of the spotlight on them, Dr. Wilson had the spotlight on him in recent weeks and months with the gas giveaway. This morning he said that was not political pandering that he's given to folks in hurricane-ravaged Louisiana and in COVID-strapped California. I'm wondering how you, who days, weeks after he gave out those cards, you followed suit. How would you describe to the casual political observer whether this is political pandering as we're going through a gas spike, or how do you see what he did and your reaction to what he did?
Well, let me just correct one premise. I don't react to what other people do, other than the residents of our city. The gas prices were spiking way before this stuff happened. We thought about ways in which we can constructively provide relief for our residents. And we want to do it in a responsible way, in a way that's going to be impactful. And we've announced that a couple weeks back regarding both gas cards that people can get without having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and also in encouraging people who ride the CTA to provide them some relief as well. So we do what we do in response to what we know and see and hear from our residents. And our residents were telling us, and frankly, as blatantly obvious, when you see gas prices at $6 a gallon for regular, as they were, frankly, in many gas stations around the south side and on the north side and on the west side, it was obvious that relief needed to come, and that's what government should be about.
Thanks, Mayor. That's a wrap. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you all.